Hi guys, the rare ability to drive innovation throughout your organizational culture in a way that shapes downstream creativity is often what shapes a corporate innovator into what we call an intrapreneur. Join us today as we have a thought-provoking conversation with one such person who will teach us a lot and help us rethink entrepreneurship. Come along with us. Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of the Kula Biz Lounge podcast. My name is Bongani Mzobe, your host for that platform that decodes entrepreneurship and helps you in your journey as you chase your bag. We do say this every week. We don't know what you're chasing, but there is a formula to getting it right. Today is another show where we bring you a thought-provoking conversation with a guest who we find very, very interesting. Someone who's going to help us rethink entrepreneurship and take a different look at it while we consider a concept known as intrapreneurship. Before I go very far, let me welcome my co-host, who's very quiet today. He normally, gives me a hard time starting the show, but today is quite disciplined, if I may say so. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Can't complain much. And Macheroni and today
we waiting for today's option, yeah?
Yes, option, yes. So today we are mingling with Limpopoans, yeah.
Yes.
So but it's been a great journey, man. And still is going to be a great one in terms of entrepreneurship and the Kula podcast. We had some great guests in the past, and we'll continue to keep it up. I mean, today we are excelling. We brought a guest that is very active, robust, radical, whatever he may say. But he always says that he's not a politician, but it's fine. Mr. Toby, how are you, sir?
Hey, my man, I'm good, my friend. How are you, Nick?
Yeah, how are you?
I'm all right.
Great,
okay.
man.
Thanks,
Great.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Having you on the show today means so many things to the both of us sitting here, but also to the entrepreneurs that are going to be watching this episode.
Yeah.
Many of them are people who either could be still studying. Some of them could be people who are working in the corporate space. Some of them could have already branched out as entrepreneurs in their respective fields. And we really think you have something to offer to each and every person in those groups. So I must say it's quite an honor to have you with us today. Looking forward to the conversation today.
Yeah, no, the pleasure is mine, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah. I want to read your bio taken out of your Twitter profile. It says you're a speaker, an innovation thought leader, a director, a digital evangelist. Mchana, what's that?
Hey, Chana, it's a fundi,
Spreading the gospel.
Spreading the digital gospel, man. Yeah.
A critical thinker and executive consultant. Quite interesting. How far back did you coin this bio on your profile?
This is actually probably 4 years, about 3 or 4 years old.
Yeah.
Because I see it even says 11 years. I've been in the industry for about 14, 15 years now.
Is it?
Yeah, but for me, that is core to who I am.
Is
right?
it?
Some things may shift about your character as you grow.
Yes,
personally and professionally.
Yeah, true.
But being an innovation-led type of person or a digital evangelist or a critical thinker is core to who you are as an individual.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's still the same. It remains constant.
Yeah. We also picked up on his Clifton strengths. 5 strengths that are basically, they come out of a set of 177 questions that are an assessment into your character, who you are, your thinking, to basically give you 5 touch points that really explain who you are.
Yeah.
And his 5 are futuristic, individualization, strategic, activator, and connectedness. I find it quite interesting, Doby, that in your 5, there's individualization, which is all I am, I need, I want, I, okay?
Yes.
And right at the end, there's connectedness, which simply is we are, we need, we, which speaks a lot about, the type of leader that you are.
Yeah.
A leader that, one, is aggressive at chasing what you set out to achieve, but also a leader that ropes in other people. Make sure that you make an impact into either downstream creativity or innovation in an organization. Do you think this Clifton assessment was quite spot on your strengths?
Yeah, it's quite accurate. I mean, I obsess a lot. I think I was saying to Nick earlier on about, how forward-thinking or forward-looking I am as a person. So I spend more time focusing on what happens a year from now. 3 years, 5 years. So your short, medium, or long-term sort of approach. And for me, the futuristicness to that is all about that. To say humanity post-2050, what does it mean? How will we look? Where will we be farming? Will we still be living in cities? Because if you look at a lot of research, it says there will be hyper-urbanization. The trend is not going to change as it's been for the past 100 years.
True.
More and more people are going to move into mega cities, as what they call it. But if you look at integrated transport systems and working from home, it actually contradicts that. It doesn't force you or encourage you to move to the city. It says stay.
Yeah, as long as it's connection.
And as long as you've got 5G or 4G and connect, you are fine there. So now the question is, do we really understand the full dynamics of, what happens by 2050? And for me, I obsess a lot about that. And the second one, I think that is quite important for me, is the one that says connectedness. As much as I see myself as a very important piece of the puzzle, there is an entire puzzle to worry about. There's an entire ecosystem of people, businesses that you need to worry yourself about, and most importantly, the impact you have as an individual, your actions that have your actions and the impact they have in that entire ecosystem that you're trying to build. I think that's another thing that is quite important for me to say. Let's remain, connected. Let's understand other people's strengths. Let's leverage them and let's allow them to lead us in certain instances, because you fully understand from an individualization point of view, where you introspect a lot, your own shortcomings. And Ugut Ubongani is stronger when it comes to this. So maybe pull back, let him lead you. That's the type of leadership that I really aspire for.
I guess the formula to mastering connectedness is in mastering individualization. Because from self, you are then part of a team, and through those dynamics, you win together. Also picked up on an interesting tweet by one of the people. I think you were involved in one of the business events. I'm not sure what the name is, but this lady writes, Dobyl Malubane, very profoundly stating that we need to be marketing to our future consumer. And we had better have a view of who that is. I found that to be quite beautiful and futuristic as well. Because, often as entrepreneurs, we think about now, we look at this consumer that we're servicing now, and not a lot of us spend time thinking about what type of consumer will I be servicing in the next 10, 20 years' time. Do you think that that trait of you being a futuristic leader has developed over time as you grew, and maybe as you had your eyes opened by different things in your life? Or are you just a futuristic person from your core?
Yeah, you know what? I think so. I'm a managing exec at Telkom, at BCX Telkom, which is one of the Telkom subsidiaries. And obviously, BCX is more B2B, whereas Telkom is actually across the board. Business to business, business to consumer, business to consumer to business sometimes, and all of that type of stuff. And for me, you know what, if I don't think about how I sell to the future consumer, honestly, I think at my level I should be very worried, because you're that guy who's an executive leading a very big business, responsible for a very big P&L. But you focus a lot on what's in front of your nose and what's in your rear view mirror. What happened last year.
It's quite short-sighted,
yet you're supposed to lead this business into the future.
Into the future, true.
And I'm sure when people, or let me say, some of these talent recruitment people hire people of our age, since we are peers, they're really looking at the longevity of how long will you be in the environment or in the business, and how much impact you can have in terms of how the business shapes itself to think forward, right? So at the core, yes, I am a futuristic person, but what fascinates me, specifically around marketing to the future consumer. Let me use the same analogy that I used around 2050. People are moving to the cities, yet we see working from home, allowing you to work from everywhere. The question is, well, if I'm an automotive or a car manufacturer, and people can now transport themselves into the city using things like Hyperloop, is it Virgin?
Virgin,
yeah. Where you can jump into this tube and just shoots you into the city within 30 minutes. You've traveled from Hammanskraal to Joburg or wherever in 15 minutes, right? For me, cars no longer really matter. They're a non-factor. We shouldn't be talking about them. And the question now is, if the biggest consumers of oil, which is the previous industrial revolution's data equivalent to what we have now, is oil still relevant? Should we be talking about it and investing so much money into that? So these are some of the fundamental questions we need to ask, and the answers that we can get from these fundamental questions will help us figure out not only the future market or the future consumers that we should be selling to and marketing to, but what they even look like. So, for example, it now means that we're going to have a very passenger-driven, shared economy will probably still exist, oriented sort of, customer base. Now, how do we talk about experiences that are curated for Ubongani as he sits in a Gautrain, instead of an experience of Ubongani sitting in traffic? Because Bongani can no longer see the billboard that you've put AM1 as a Gold Reef City, and you're saying, Uti, it gets 100,000 eyeballs a day, and that's how you quantify.
That's downsized to 20 eyeballs.
It's now downsized to 20 eyeballs. But guess what? Ubongan is no longer driving, therefore he's no longer distracted, therefore he's got his eyes glued on his mobile. What can you put on that mobile that can replace the billboard that you saw as threat? Those are the questions that are important to ask in order for us to come up with strategies on how do we position, pivot our businesses to be able to then cater and sell and market to those type of consumers.
So, but now, being a futuristic thinker, all right? Where I'm sure there's got to be a balance, because in order for you to fully express or execute certain ideas, your day-to-day operation for the current existing customer needs to be sorted out. That needs to be fully functional and providing proceeds of that over to you to create that tube. The same as Virgin, you understand? And now, can one be a future problem solver while still solving today's problems?
No, of course.
You see, because remember, the thing about it is that COVID didn't really change much. What it did was it provided an opportunity to escalate pending progress that needed to happen, right? Didn't change. We were talking, 2018, there were studies talking about people can work from home. right?
4-day
work weeks. I mean, last week I saw one company in America where it said that all the employees, they signed up for 4-day work week.
Yeah.
They go to work from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Yeah.
And then they decide what the remaining hours to make that 40 hours, how and when do they do them.
Yeah.
But the other ones are there.
Yeah.
And then per month they have a compulsory day that they come to work, but they don't work. It's just for them to come and draw energy from their spaces. So that talks about a company that's already addressing the future problems, all right, or the future solutions, while still maintaining the bottom line.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. The bottom line is important, Nick. Let me put it in this way. If you look in the last 24 months, let's say during COVID, right? Need to mind you, we've got a new way of measuring pre and post pandemic. So during pandemic, companies that did extremely well, one of them is the telco sector.
True.
I mean, if you look at Vodacom's annual results, it was insane. I mean, I think they had increased their number of budget by almost twofold, if I'm not mistaken, right? It was insane. Obviously for the execs, it was a good payday.
True. I mean, right.
We worked very hard. But what it did is, it exactly did what you're talking about. It fast-tracked, Vodacom for many years, Telkom, MTN, Cell C, had invested quite a lot of money. Even the likes of Sibanye Gold, for example.
True, yeah, that made a killing,
They made a killing because of commodity prices. But if you look at both these two sectors, mining and telco, these are, I would say, capex intensive, infrastructure intensive sort of businesses, where you must put a lot of money in building the infrastructure, which will then obviously generate the revenue over time.
Yeah, true.
Right. So this infrastructure is there. These are sunken costs. These are already there. You're not going to reinvest in infrastructure because right? 5G was already there. And what they saw was this crazy uptake, because suddenly they were probably forecasting, very slow adoption of 5G over 18 to 24 month period. But suddenly within 6 months, they shot the lights off. Right. It speaks to the bottom line that you're talking about, to say, but how do you make sure that you've got the infrastructure today that will help you, obviously from a commercial point of view, generate that revenue, and from the revenue be able to then put money back in what some companies call R&D. If memory serves me well, about 8 years ago when I worked for Huawei, they had things in their research and development lab that was 5 years ahead.
True.
They had technology that was being shelved. If you remember the entire operator, this Android debacle that happened in the US, where suddenly Huawei had to come up with its own OS, operating system. Guess what they did? They literally just went to the shelf and said, okay,
we can do, we have something available.
This thing, we planned for this. It was there.
Just plug it there, that's it.
Plug it. Yes, you don't have Twitter, unfortunately. Yes, you don't have Facebook.
But those are cosmetics.
But the core and the functionality and the system that the device needs to run is there, and it was shelved.
True.
Right? So we need to think now, shelve things now, only for us to launch them in the future. But by the time the future comes, it shouldn't be a how do we solve for the now? It should be we solved for the now 20 years ago. How do we tweak it and contextualize it with minor tweaks to say, okay, no, Ubongani actually is more sophisticated than we expected. If you look at our kids now, they can unlock your phone within 2 seconds. At age 2.
Problem.
Take the same phone, give it to your grandfather or your parents. And see them
hours and hours.
They're trying to navigate this thing and they can't.
Voice notes are a trouble for all the people.
Precisely. And my mother, or let me say my dad, actually still needs my mom. When he wants to send a WhatsApp, it's like, no, I'm waiting for your mother to come send the WhatsApp. Because my mom is 7 years younger, but somehow, obviously, women, I'm sure women, they have a tendency of being quicker learners than we are.
They do.
So let me maybe wrap up your question. Or was it yours, Nick? Yes, it's important to worry about the now and making sure that you've got enough infrastructure, and you've got enough money circulating, revenue being generated, for you to then say 5% of it will be allocated to R&D that will solve future problems.
Yes.
You know, for me, that is quite important. You can have all these ideas, but when there's no capital to fund them, it becomes a futile exercise.
Yeah.
And now, obviously, what I've looked at is I've looked at the fact that being South Africa has one of the greatest markets in terms of consumers, because it's a mobile first country. If you want something, you touch your phone first. Right? So you wake up, you touch your phone first, you know, you are in the shower, it rings, you leave the water, you touch your phone. so that nobody
after.
cleanliness after China. The phone is number one. You know? And to actually also to amplify what you're saying, we are a very youthful country, right? That means that essentially you need to have clients or whatever products that you're building are going with the customer journey and experience over the years, moving from 18 to early adult or whatsoever up until maybe 45. Right? So yes, your current product should be aligned to say, okay, fine, this one will create it, but we'll only do 10 versions of it, software upgrades.
Sure.
Whilst we already implementing things that are making them ready for the new technology. You understand? Because when we're coming back to the example that you're making about the cell phone towers from 3G, 4G, I'm now thinking, growing up in Soweto, we saw a lot of towers being put in primary school and everything. There was a tower, and then now they even made them look like trees, so that the birds can just chill there and not, you know. So now, I want to find out because I know your strength also sits on telcos. How are you finding the decision of Cell C deciding that it's going to sell off its assets and then go back and lease the same asset that they've sold off? And whilst you can see companies like Vodacom, right, Telkom, that have these towers, they're just busy tweaking and changing the spectrum. Do you understand? Now, what's your take on that? I want to see, because obviously they want to release cash and have enough cash injection into the business. But of the same assets, that the cost of ownership, having that being erased in the space.
No, I worry a bit about Cell C. You know, I think the decisions they are making are a bit. You're not sure where it leads them. You know, they're not as intentional as the other, and I don't want to say the other traditional telcos, because ultimately even Cell C is a more traditional telco than even Vodacom Telkom Consumer, for example. Because remember, before ATA and all of that, and obviously I'm not speaking on behalf of Telkom. I would say I'm speaking more as a thought leader, observing from afar. Cell C has actually been around, and they've actually done extremely well in the beginning. I mean, you can talk for free on weekends. Remember that
Cell C to Cell C.
Cell C to Cell C, Mahala, you know, Mahala, and you're like, yo, you know what? They had the black consumer,
the right market,
the containers, the Lokshini.
Yes.
They pioneered, you know, you were there with 1 rand, calling your girlfriend, you know, and you would even stay there. So she calls you back on the number, and now you're fighting with a container operator. Right? So for me, that sense of direction that they had and intent that they had in the beginning, this is the early 2000s, was unparalleled. You know, Vodacom obviously came now by Enzama container, MTN came, but they couldn't beat Cell C.
They couldn't.
Till today, Elokshini is somewhere, Davidton, Soweto.
You'll find a Cell C container.
But the Cell C containers are still there. You're right. It's a legacy of a once lucrative and successful era of Cell C. Now, I yearn for that to come back, because I think they definitely do have a role to play in the South African market. And them selling off to then lease back, it releases some cash for them to obviously put back into the business, or you know, maybe for whatever other stuff they might have, you know, servicing debt and all of that. But the question is, in terms of leasing, does it make financial sense? I'll give you an example. Everybody actually leases from everyone. Vodacom roams with MTN, MTN roams with Telkom, Telkom roams with MTN, with Cell C. When you've got cell phone coverage wherever you are, 80% of the chances are your service provider has a tower there. The other 20% is they're leasing somewhere.
Yes.
When I go to Limpopo, my service provider doesn't have coverage there. It says LTE, and I know that's MTN, right? So for me, it's small things like that where I'm like, okay, this thing has worked. Sometimes putting down capital to build infrastructure is not always a good idea. Leverage somebody's infrastructure, get a little bit of margin from that. Then have enough money in the bank for you to build your own, right? So we're seeing a reversal in that. And if the intention with SLC is to do exactly that, to revitalize our own aging infrastructure and then come back into the market with much cheaper ways of doing things, then it would make sense. But I am, however, worried about the direction in terms of how they're communicating their strategy to their shareholders and everybody. Is everybody fully aware of what this decision means? Because it seemed a bit too haphazard for me. It came out of nowhere. As a person who's close to this type of news, I did not see that coming. So it really doesn't make sense.
I really got worried there.
Dobby, I'm more interested to find out, the man behind the Dobby that we know. Where you come from. What passions have fueled this Dobby. And you spoke earlier on about some of the things that you're doing with your father. And that must speak to somewhere or a base from which you have taken to be the person that you are today. Where do you come from? Tell us, who's Dobby? Where do you come from?
Hey man, I come from Zanin, a small village called Malubane village, which is my surname.
Wow.
He's chief.
When I'm there, let's just say I can point at everything and say, this is mine.
They would just stop a party and say, you're here because of me.
I watched on sorry to disturb you. I watched on the weekend, the Zulu people were having Mhlanga. And people were, so how do we salute you as Malubane?
It's not when I went over, it's not you know what, I think we're a bit more progressive. Yes, my cousin, my cousin's sister, we actually have a female chief.
Wow.
We're very progressive. So she's the one that's currently in power. And she's doing extremely well. We're giving her all the support.
Yes.
My old man is actually the head of the Royal Council in our family, my dad. So he's giving her all the support that she needs also from a wisdom point of view. So we call each other Ndabi. Just Ndabi. Not necessarily Ndabi Zita. But no need to do any of the formalities. But I'm from Zanin, from a small, farming village. We are surrounded by farms. Literally on one side is the main road to Giani from Zanin. On the other side, parallel to the main road, is the Great Litaba River, which is a walking distance from my house. On both sides of the village is farm. On the other side of the river, it's farms. So we are a citrus growing community in a farming community. Everybody from our village, let me say 90%, works directly in the farms. So the upbringing obviously is typical. Growing up in the early 90s in a farming village where you are literally, like, as in you can see a young white man slap your dad in the face. Baram clap.
There's nothing you can do about it.
Nothing you can do about it. I've got a very interesting, and I'm gonna bring this up a bit. I've got a very good memory of certain things that happened when I was 1 and 2. That I still I still ask my parents, my mom. I was born in 1988. And I'm like, Ma, I remember there was this one time we were walking and there were people, a very big crowd of people with pangas and red things on their heads. We're at my grandmother's house, a Shawela, and it's right next to Old Porch. And I saw this person's head on the street. Like literally there was a head on the street. And she's like, there's no way you can remember that. You were far too young. Probably saw it on TV. And I'm like, no.
You remember
what was happening? She's like, no, that's the Inca thing that was happening because they were going from hostel to whatever. It was a mess. I think the year was 1990.
And it still stays in your memory.
It's there, And The same
They
thing
were
with
moving
this,
from Nicefield as well.
Yeah, the same thing with my mom. I was on her back. They took her off a bus, a hill, bro, because wakibeli pasla belungu. By mistake,
Yes.
you know, and the driver said no, get off. And then we were thrown out of the bus, my mom and I, and my brother Moses, who's about 2 years older than me. And I remember that stuff, but it feels like a very vivid, a very distant memory. It was a movie, but you can see that, no man, I was there.
You're there.
So that type of upbringing, my man, that type of injustice where you can see your parents being reduced to absolutely nothing, I think it actually does something to you where you just feel like you want to restore their dignity. You want to do everything for them. And for me, a lot of the things that I'm doing now, I would say, is all about my family. When I say my family, I'm one of 8 kids. I've got 3 brothers, so it's 4 guys, 3 older brothers, and I've got 4 sisters.
Okay.
So 2 younger sisters, 2 older sisters. So we're quite a large family. And I always say to my peers, we actually run our family like a business. We've got 2 WhatsApp groups.
Okay.
One is for business because we are together in the farming, trucking, and all the stuff that we're doing. Where we leverage each other's strengths. We even go as far as being very deliberate. We've got an accountant in the family, my brother Omoshe. We've got an economist, my sister. She's an Investec. We've got a mining engineer or an engineer, my elder sister. We've got an electrical engineer, my eldest brother. We've got my other brother who's in IT, is a CIO or VP for a global German bank. Then my younger sister, the last one, we're like, okay, we actually don't have a lawyer. So she completed her law degree at UP last year, and she's still back at UP doing her postgrad. So for me, we've got the right sort of foundation within us. Now we look at all the stuff that we're doing. How do we commercially grow them into proper businesses? Now, you asked me who I am or how did I get to how I am. I've mentioned the childhood and the traumas and some of the stuff that you see. What I didn't mention is my dad was actually an executive for Tsibo. I think you guys know Tsibo. No. So he was deputy GM for Tsibo Lesotho. You know, for him it was a way of, he was regional chairperson of the ANC in at the time. So late 80s, early 90s. So he took a transfer, we all moved to Lesotho. I think we're in exile.
Yeah, you're in exile. Within landlocked exile.
So like, hi man. No, time. I'm sure what they transferred you or according to Buisab. You know, so I grew up in Lesotho the first 5 years of my years. And my dad, like I said, was a GM there. Came back to South Africa, went back to Limpopo up until almost high school. Where I came to Joburg, did my high school here, my varsity here. So I've been here for about 20 years now, 21 years. But critical to my dad being a GM or an executive is this. He used to write his reports. So he had to report to his bosses, who was the COO at the time, every 2 weeks, sometimes every twice a month, sometimes once a month, sometimes per quarter. And he would write the reports down in pen and paper. And he would ask me to type it for him. So when you thinking you are just typing, you are retaining all of these things. And that's how I know it to be true, is because out of all my siblings, I'm the one that used to do that. And out of all my siblings, I'm the only one that has a very entrepreneurial mind. By the time I was in grade 11, I could write a business case, a business plan. I could even do a case study, you know.
Wow.
And when I started working, that just came naturally, you know, and a lot of people were like, no, you seem to have a thing for this. And honestly, it's conditioning, because I wrote so many of my reports, the reports that my dad wanted me to type, or let me say, I typed so many of them, that I knew what a SWOT analysis was when I was in standard 7. You know, I knew what a forecast was when I was in matric. You know? So for things like that, I think it conditioned me to end up where I am.
Do you think for your dad it was an intentional move, though?
I'm seeing
to get you
weekend.
You must ask.
I'm going to ask Chief, was it by design or by
maybe he just didn't buy a laptop. He wanted you just to type this thing.
Because the thing is, my dad was typical 50s people. Presses the L.
Yes, you know that.
Then looks at the keyboard. Then he presses the H,
Yeah.
TH, thank you, corner is typed in 30 seconds. So maybe he was just someone who was taking too much time to adopt to technology. I don't know. I'll actually have a conversation with him.
Yeah. But thinking back to your younger self, you mentioned that you were in Lesotho for the earlier part of your life.
Yeah.
You came back to South Africa, schooling, and then tertiary education as well.
Yeah.
Would you say that you've taken the direction that you had in your mind as the dream when you started forming, ideas of success in your head?
Yeah.
What you thought of? Would you say that you have accomplished exactly that?
Sometimes I feel like I'm a passenger in my own life.
You're shadowing yourself.
Sometimes I'm like, short left. And the driver's God. I don't know. Like it's just one of those things where I don't know how I got here. Honestly, obviously I must have made a few good decisions in my childhood, but now that I'm in proper corporate for the last 7 years, every move I've made has been extremely calculated.
Okay.
Extremely calculated.
Yeah.
For example, I'll make one more move now for about 3 years, and then move on to become a chief somewhere. And I'm putting it on record because I'm usually very accurate.
It's 3 years on the podcast and in the universe.
I'm not manifesting to all the God's fearless children. I'm not manifesting anything. I'm being deliberate about the moves I want to make. And I know it will happen. I will be a chief of something somewhere in 3 years' time. But when I look at my sister, one of my sister, the one who's an economist, always been a fan. That consistent voice behind you that says, you are very smart. She used to tell me straight out. You can achieve this. You can achieve that. Marawa uznyata, My other brother, Omoshena, is very, hey chief, you are very smart. I tell people about you all the time. That reassures you and it builds your confidence. Right? And you walk into any room, any space, and you own it.
You own it, true.
Especially when you've got content. Because I'm a avid, I listen to talk radio, I do documentaries, I read a lot. So I know a lot of stuff from a general knowledge point of view. So I can walk into any environment with the confidence that my conditioning has built and actually own the space.
True.
But one more other comment about conditioning, and I know a lot of things sound like jokes because I'm a light-hearted guy.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember Kaya Mutene and New Horizons on Generation?
Yeah.
Oh yes, Senora. Yeah.
I know there was Kaya Mutene and Connie Ferguson was still there as Karabu Moroka, Achi Moroka.
Queen.
They owned this advertising company. Yes. Then there was Queen, she was a PA. Man, I used to internalize that a lot. I was like, when I grow up, I'm going to have Queen.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
As a PA. And now I've got a PA now. An old African Ertani, amazing lady.
Yeah.
And then I've got, I'm now leading. I'm the Kaya Mutene
now.
Of the business, as much as they were doing advertising, doing similar stuff.
Yeah.
So I wanted that. I wanted that. In the early 2000s, I used to watch Generations, and I used to say, I want this.
You want this.
I want this.
So powerful that you tell us that you internalized that which was just a soapy.
It was entertainment.
An entertainment for all of us.
It was a blueprint for my life.
Not everyone was internalizing it in the way that you tell us that you did. And also powerful, I think, is, the support base that you have around you. Constantly mentioning to you that you can. I normally say this, Doby. It costs absolutely nothing to tell Tabang that Tabang, it's possible. You can do it. And the amount of value that lands on his character, his confidence is immeasurable. And I imagine for you, coming from a family that even has a specific WhatsApp group for for business.
Yeah. Then the
You
other one
know,
is for
it
for families.
speaks a lot about, the kind of thinking that you come from.
Yeah.
I'm just so amazed that, we have a family, an African family, that invests so much in first, developing themselves personally, either through education or other means, but also sharing that development with immediate family. I had a status a few weeks back on my WhatsApp with people, which a few people responded to. I said, guys, make sure that as you rise and you achieve what you want to achieve, never leave your family behind. And family, I don't mean Wana Malome ko Lesotho. I don't mean in Kongondlo. No, I mean in the house.
In the house.
You find households where the brother is a CFO at a big business. The sister works at ShopRite. Not to say, we're not saying it's a bad job, but we're merely saying as you grow and find your green pasture, think about those that are alongside you. Never give up on them. And I close that status with the words, there's nothing cool about breadwinner families.
Nothing cool about
There's
it.
absolutely nothing cool about it. The fact that you win together is so much more stronger and valuable. And I'm sure that has, not only shaped who you are, but it has become your core.
And you know what, Bongani, I'll give you two examples. The first one is to what you're saying it's very powerful. I think it was John Carney recently. John Carney in another interview in a podcast we shall not mention. And he said when you reach the top floor, remember to press 1 on the elevator.
Yes, I remember
so it goes back to the first floor and picks somebody up. Man, I was like, hey, the time I really
That's powerful.
Shama bars.
I was like, hey, this man is dropping bars, man, in his 60s or 70s.
Dobby, you're also speaking about people who have seen what success is. They've touched it. They know what success is.
And it changes you forever.
Yes.
So with my siblings, and not only them, I've got about 3 other friends that I would consider extremely close.
Okay.
But my siblings, including my wife, she's very, very strong. Hey, that woman is a cheerleader. She's never said, mara wena solala singadla. No, she never says slambisa. It's like, when are we doing this?
Let's go at it.
Even my kids are now like that, And my siblings laugh at us. They're like, when I was in KZN, I was alone this weekend and I was just doing
I saw,
solo trip. But we drive to George with my kids, and people are like, how do you keep them in the back seat? They're 8 and 5. And I'm like,
it's a long drive.
My kids are very inquisitive. You can do the entire garden route and they'll tell you, Daddy, stop here, stop there. Oh my God. Imagine a 5-year-old saying to her older sister, Ceci, look at the view. And I'm like, look at the view at 5.
At 5,
Their lives are
what is she going to be looking at 10?
Man, at 10 she'll be looking at different stuff. For me, that is what I want to give them. And my siblings hold me accountable. Over and above what we're talking about, having that group. My eldest sister paid for my 3rd year. Of varsity. I remember she took out a personal loan of 36,000 rand, 500 with FNB.
500.
Go preach her in town. I remember we went there and she was working already.
Okay.
Today, yes, she's an engineer. She runs a team, a massive team.
Okay.
At one of the biggest mining companies in the world. But she holds me accountable in a sense that every move I make, I call her not to ask for permission. I tell my siblings, all of them, they even know how much I earn, all of them. When I get a bonus, it's not, guys, I got a bonus, my wife and I are going to Vienna, or my wife and I are going to Bali. It's, guys, we've got a bonus, what do we do with it? Right? Because my sister's paid black tax.
Key word there, we have got a bonus.
I mean, the eldest one that I'm talking about paid for my varsity with a student loan. That's black tax.
That's black tax,
I've got no black tax left to do. When the money comes, either I squander it, I buy Versace's and Gucci's, or we lift the family out of poverty and our kids can have something completely different. So that's why it's important for me to say to her, the money, the black tax that have caused you debts, sis, let's quickly get you out of that debt. So we will elevate you to the same level of affordability again. And then you and your kids and everybody, how do we create some sort of shared wealth amongst all of us? And how do we make sure that we give all of our kids, because Pega Bongani, this thing of jealousy, and I generally don't think it would be there if there was equality.
True.
And equality sometimes can be afforded. So if I say to both our kids, you're both going to the same school, we're giving it the same allowance, it is up to you to make it. When you don't make it, you can't blame it on anything. So even when you become jealous, it's not because of inequality. I never had any opportunities. No, you did.
You did.
You messed it up.
You messed it up. So take accountability. And for me, that is what is important. And once we can do that as a collective of 8 kids, we can even fundraise because we're all professionals.
We're all professionals, yes.
One of my sisters is in HR. She can even do the processes and all of the contracting and all of that. Right? And we can say, how do we raise $1 million? We can actually raise $1 million before the end of the day today. One can increase the overdraft, the other one can take a quick loan that you get as a pop-up on FNB. $1 million can be raised now. But for what? To what end?
To what end, true. What
so you need that strategic outlook. You need that deliberate driving force that says, this is the direction we're driving the family towards. I'm the connector. I'm the person who opens doors. But my brother Moshe is the one that, he's an operator, that guy. He's in finance. But when he comes, our drivers are like on the clock. He doesn't mess around. Then we've got our older brother Greg. We call him Mumfundis. He comes in like Bafetu Singani. Can we hear both sides of it?
Yeah.
You need the aggression.
You need such people.
But you also need the equalizer. And you need the dreamer, but you need the realist.
Yes.
So I'm not saying have a lot of kids, but it works.
Looking like it makes sense. It makes sense now.
It works.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
And I mean, one thing that I take from what you've said is that is that you don't only have to be intentional in your own space, right? Be intentional even in the spaces that you have influence in, right? Yeah. You've identified your role in the family, and you've said, okay, this role that I have, I'll be effective in it, right? Because I'm held accountable for it, right? As much as your sister paid for the last year of varsity, she had. And although we may call it black tax, but at the back of her mind, when she signed that loan application, there was a certain motivation that said that I need to do this. I can see where he is going. I know he's here, but I can see where he is going. And if I don't do something intentionally to say, Chief, you cannot mess this thing up, go forward, it will have a ripple effect.
And I would have become dependent on her.
True.
Eventually.
And that is one of the things that I think indirectly the family is fighting, or as what you are saying with Bongani in terms of breadwinner mentality. The issue is, if you are so happy about being the CEO at a big company, but your family is working ordinary jobs, right? Who are you going to confide to when you have problems?
Exactly.
If you are sitting right now, you say to me, okay, Nick, I made a bonus of 500,000 rands. If you then go to your sister who works at ShopRite, who makes 60,000 rands a year, right, including bonus, right, and then you tell them that, oh, sis, I've got a bonus of 500,000. Doesn't that spark something? You know? That sparks jealousy, that sparks envy, all these things. Do you understand? So I know that we grew up understanding a story. I'm not sure how true it is about Motsepe, but we'll get a fact checker for that. But I was informed that when he realized his riches, which I think I would also do in life, instead of giving his family money, he went to his siblings' kids to say, I'll take you to school. Do you understand? Yes, it may seem charitable and everything else, but what he has done, he has built his own support system. That if I'm having problems, I can go and call Ndwana and say, Ndwana, listen here, I have a problem with this tax issue. How do we solve it? I've got the resources, but tell me what you need to make this thing go away.
Yeah.
Like right now, what you are doing to say, okay, your sister has now finished her LLB, now she's pursuing it further and all those stuff. You are actually doing a support system, a legal support system for yourself and the family. What is it? What greater thing would it happen if if you're the same sister goes back to your kids and say, hey guys, listen, I see opportunities here. My company is having scholarships. Bro, don't pay school fees. They can go to Michael House. I'll put it into our scheme. You've saved 200,000 rands a year that you can redirect to the family business. Do you understand? So you build with what you have and with who you have. Human beings will be humans.
Nick, I think the other thing I'm thinking about as you're saying this, I mean, you speak about a sister who works at ShopRite, you are CEO somewhere, you've got a bonus of 500,000. Even if you feel generous and say, you know what, this is my sister, let me throw 100,000 your way. What are the chances of that person using that money, prudently? What are the chances of that person making something, using that money as a start of something great? So neglecting those things in your family, you're not only neglecting what we see, you're neglecting much bigger things. So kudos to you and your family, man.
You know what, we try, and I think the biggest thing that keeps me up at night now is the humility. We've got it. Don't get me wrong. We've got it. But I really hope our kids will remain humble.
True.
You know? Because I listen to my kids sometimes. Hey.
I feel like you can mute them and say, hey, guys.
And you're listening through the window. And you're listening to them talk to their friends. Why doesn't your mom have a car? I mean, we have so many cars. And you guys only have one. Why? And I'm like, oh, these ones, I must send them to the village. But by doing that, I'm hampering them at the same time. They're becoming handicapped because they are thinking will become village. And a corner. And there's another thing I've seen, a one-eyed man in the land of the blind is king.
True.
Not even a millionaire, thousandaire in an area filled with poverty can end up feeling like and it gives them this pompousness. So when you send them off to a village, you're like, it's gonna teach them humility. You've created another monster.
You've created a problem.
You've created an even.
But
bigger
guys, I think there's a few language groups in this country that I know and respect as people who at least do better at mastering humility, and the Tsonga nation is one such nation. I don't know, there's just something in the Tsonga culture, the Tsonga upbringing, which, finds a way to instill humility. I mean, many of, Tsongas who are away from home really do very well for themselves. But one thing about them, they remain humble. So
what's wrong with you? Okay, excuse the side note.
I don't know.
Is he not humble?
I talk. I speak my view. I state my facts. But humility.
Look. I don't think they are muted in any way. But there's just a humble sense about this nation.
True.
Something which is beautiful to watch when you're outside, and you're just watching them as they live their lives. So I'm pretty sure even your kids, I'm sure Mchana, one thing along, something along the way will strike a chord with them to help them to move towards that culture that you guys have as the Tsonga nation, which I really love and respect.
You know what? So like I said, I read a lot of stuff. I didn't do math in high school. From grade 10 upwards, I did history.
Okay.
So I love history. And just a small little, it's not a lesson as such. This is out in the public domain. Tsongas by origin are from Mozambique. We are farmers, we are fishermen. That's what we do.
Yes.
And we rely on each other to survive.
That's true.
Yeah.
So it's in our DNA to be communable, or what's the word I'm looking for? But you need to be humble, and people need to be able to live with you.
Yes.
Because if they're not able to live with you and they cast you out, you will literally die. I mean, imagine fishing a net.
Who's gonna
Fish.
pull it with you?
Who's gonna pull it with you?
And you guys have got a solid support system.
Right. And you will see it in Orlando. There's a place called Kwamamshanga in Orlando East.
Yeah.
Every Sunday, I
said DK in zone 4
radio zone 4 DK Etembisa.
Yeah, Shawela is
Shawela. There's a place called Epasi. Clifton. You know, we all meet there, you know, and John Pote, you just hear us everywhere.
I mean, we always get crash your parties.
Yeah, when are you there? Because you like the speakers. But truth of the matter, or fact of the matter is this: our history determined this particular part of us.
Yes.
You know, it almost forces us to be. Then, if you look at the Zulu nation, everybody likes making jokes. Bano laga, hey, you guys are so violent. But no, wait. Let's look at history.
Yeah.
Even the way you guys dance, even your own spiritual, traditional attire. There's a spear,
and
then there's that thing, you know, the shield.
Yeah. You know
Right?
this pig.
Because they are a warrior, a nation of warriors. That's what they do. They conquer other tribes.
Yes.
So it's almost in their DNA. It's not violence. No, they're not violent people. Everything has been conditioned around, if we have this small land, remember, so if you've got this small piece of land, your cows are going to eventually die out. They're going to starve. So we need to have bigger lands. But if we can't have them, we'll take them. Right? And then that then informed the type of posture they took. You can say the same thing about Xhosa people, for example. You know, Xhosa people actually moved down and found the Khoi. And then eventually the Khoi moved. And they've been there since time immemorial. But at the end of the day, these are the first people that interacted with foreigners, Mabafika, Ngoba, they were by the coast. That's why you'd find that a lot of their history now, and I'm not claiming to be a historian, but you'll find that they've got a lot of intermingledness. Or, you know, they've got white surnames, not only because of slavery, but because somewhere, somehow, there was inter-tribe relations and marriage and all of that stuff. You look at Bapedi, they've got 8 dialects, if I'm not mistaken, because of movement.
There's a lot of...
I didn't understand it until I stayed in Leboakhom.
When I'm from Leboakhom, in ZP, right? And they speak this half Ndebele, half Pedi thing mixed up. And my wife is actually Mukimotebele,
Okay.
Then you look at, Sepedi, I would say, Kislovedu, but they still call it, closer to Zanin, where I'm from.
Yes.
All of that stuff, the geopolitics, the geographical place where they find themselves, including how they lived and made a living back
history,
then, sort of informed the type of people you see today.
Yes.
Right. So that's why you'd find that they are very jovial people, very ceremonial people, because for them, every small chance to celebrate is important, because there's always been so much death around them. They've always had to move around. Right? When they finally settle, it's a very big thing. Even for my wife, for example, security is one of the biggest things.
Yes.
My wife panics when our meter has 200 units of electricity.
It's a problem.
This morning she sent me a text saying, "Hey, Chief, we need electricity." I went and looked there. That electricity can last us a month. Why are these petty people so... They're always worried, man. But you look at them and you realize security has always been
important. It's important,
So same thing with Shangans. We've always been conquered. We are a peaceful nation. Tina, we're there by the beach. Ushanga wafiga. But yay. So yeah.
Yeah, and on the concept that we're talking about today. Intrapreneurship. I thinking about it now as I'm sitting next to you and you're relaying how you guys run your family. I find a lot of similarities in that type of leadership concept. In that firstly, you don't lead your own establishment or your own organization. You lead with the others. But there is enough room for you to find your creative senses or your something creative in you, so that you're able to express that. And I'm sure the reason why intrapreneurship as a concept became attractive to you as you climbed the ladder, the corporate ladder, must have something to do with that history from your family. Because your leadership style in the family is not one which suggests that for me to thrive, I need to walk my path, but it is a shared path with other people. I want to find out, I mean, at which stage of your journey in the corporate space did you start tapping at the people, the right people, to listen to the fire within you, to start being innovative in your leadership within the organization?
I like that question. And it's almost, I would say, it's quite inherent in the organization I worked for at the time. So I worked for a company called Accenture. It's an American global consulting firm, quite big. And there they teach you collaboration. Like they teach you collaboration. Like it's the mantra of the business.
Who are you working with in whatever you're doing?
And they'll tell you straight up, the brilliant idea that you have, as brilliant as it is, it is brilliant. But if you've thought of it, one of your colleagues somewhere around the world has done it. So don't start from scratch. Find out who has done it in this company. Call him and say to him, hey, Rajesh, sitting in Bangalore, I've got this thing, and I'm looking for, we called it accelerators. I'm looking for an accelerator that's going to help me take this idea to market quickly. And everybody in the company was always willing to help. As in the guys in the west coast of the US, my chief, a good 9 hours behind us will stay up until 2 just to have a conversation with you. In the morning on their side, and it's early for you, or it's late night for you. Right. So for me, it is those type of collaborative companies that then fosters you to value why it's important to surround yourself with different types of people who complete you. Right. I mentioned knowing when to lead at some point when we were talking. I think it was offline. In some instances, you need to allow yourself to be led. You need to genuinely say, listen, Rajesh is stronger at this. Let me allow him to lead. This is something you don't know. But I was one of the 2 Accenture guys who went on to do the strategy for Time Bank. Before Time Bank was it's about 7 years ago. That's the reason why I've got a Time Bank account. I literally designed the flows that you see on that kiosk. I know quite a lot, but I don't talk much about it. I think it's
because
for
you
the humility. Shanghai. Of course. But the point is this. The point is, there's a guy that I was using, Ravi. And I said to him, I want to benchmark this bank to 25 peers all over the world, including the big 4 in South Africa. The guy, my man, everybody in India who works for Accenture has an MBA, be it a junior or they all have master's degrees, be it an MBA or a master's of science, but they've got a master's level degree. The guy churned out, I think, something like 200,000 data sets within a space of 2 days. Sends it back to me, and I was like,
who are you?
It would have taken us 6 months
to do that.
if we were lucky. 4 of us to get that. So I learned there very quickly that actually having the right people in your arsenal or in your team can give you that advantage. So that's when I started becoming a bit more deliberate, bouncing ideas off with my siblings, with my wife, and then eventually started, by the way, ring-fencing some conversations away from certain people, because some people are just negative. When you say to them, hey, I want to do this, they're going to tell you about taxi strikes. They're going to tell you about...
Find the problem.
Imagine the guy who set up this establishment here in Cedar Square, 4 ways. They would have said, Mara, there's Cosmo up the road. Hey, those guys, they're going to come steal your big screens. They're outside.
True.
Right? So you end up you know who to talk to about what. And And I became very intentional when it comes to that. It's not to say I'm excluding some of my people, but I know within my circle there's certain people that you cannot have certain conversations with.
Conversations with.
That's true.
Yeah.
And collaboration is quite a big thing,
Yeah.
you know. But guys, we're also collaborating here. So now, don't forget to subscribe, comment, like, share, and also follow us on our social media platforms with the same handle at Cooler Biz. And then, yeah, we'll also follow you if there is a follow button. But yeah, look, man, Toby, what I like about how all of this, from the point of your upbringing to the point of going to school, you already have a set support system in the family, right?
Yeah.
One could have just said you come from a town that is full of farming, entrepreneurial in that particular aspect. One could have said, okay, let me go into this farming thing. It's fine.
Yeah.
But let me go into this farming thing. But no, you decided, nah, you know what? This thing can still operate whilst I'm pursuing these corporates, right? And you've made a mark to say, okay, I will grow into this corporate life, which you then said, I'm going to be an intrapreneur. I'll grow within the business. And I can see that in your family, you carry both sides in terms of your siblings as well.
Yeah.
All of them, they're doing well at their own companies that they work for, the minings and so forth and so forth.
Yeah.
They're applying their intrapreneurship in that particular aspect. And then at the same time, they're also nurturing the family entrepreneurship.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
So it's quite amazing because other people can sit here and say, okay, fine, you know what, I want to work, get money, and then start my own business.
Yeah.
You guys have a side hustle, which is a business.
Yeah.
Right? And I think
A fully fledged business.
business.
Over millions. Yeah.
Turns over millions. I think about 10 million or so forth.
Yeah.
Right? And at the same time, you hear Gamlung, good morning, CEO, how are you? Sharp.
Yeah.
Probably the CEO is holding on to this job.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you're like, yeah, but I'm only.
Yeah.
Every year I'm doing twofold.
Yeah.
So get over sharp.
Yeah.
You know? And having to say, I'm not enough. This is not enough.
Yeah. And you know what? Let me interject. It's not to say, and it doesn't constitute moonlighting, by the way. At my level, I can sit on any board. I can be on the board of this company, on the board of that company, as long as I disclose.
Disclose, yes.
Right. And as long as they do not contradict what we are doing.
Yeah.
So when I look at what I'm learning in corporate, a lot of the customers that we do or we handle in business, right? Usually I'll do the business development once, and then the company has had that customer for the past 4 years, for example. There's one big customers of ours here in Joburg. I hardly ever even talk to them. I met them when we went to pitch, and they've been there as a customer for quite some time. And when I say to them, guys, I'm an executive at so-and-so company, they respect the business more because that business has a bunch of professionals advising it how to succeed. So when we get money, we don't buy expensive cars. The first thing is, how do we make sure that this money can sustain the business?
Wow.
And what is left, we only discuss once a year when we meet as a family. You know, we'll meet in Limpopo or wherever. Back at the farm with my siblings. Okay, yeah, we're all on leave, we're back home. How has it gone? Oh, this guy runs the business for us full-time, chief. How has it been going? He'll send us a text every now and then. But the idea, my old man is full-time because he's retired. He's running the business full-time.
Okay.
But even he still calls me and say, hey, chief, these are the problems. How do we handle it? You know, and I use my corporate experience.
Yes.
You know, and let me give you another example. When customers see that you are senior, besides just respecting you, they start having really deep conversations about their own businesses with you because they know you can understand.
Yes.
Right? And suddenly they expose you to opportunities that a normal small little SMME
would not
have never even had.
True.
You know, because the conversation has moved away from, hey, you've got a truck, yes. Pick up this load, drop it there. I'm now having conversations about, no, let's talk about the N3 toll route. You know, what's happening? What are we doing from stakeholder management point of view to talk to government to make sure that the route is actually safe for the trucking to continue on that route, for the economy not to be cut down on its knees.
True.
And at the same that's the conversation I'll have with these guys, you know, and it's honestly it's at that level. Right? But what corporate has taught me, and this is what I'll forever be grateful for, 100% of my time goes to corporate. 8 to 5, and sometimes
to 11.
Until 11. Yeah. When you've got a quarterly business review with the CEO, you can't say, no. They hear your kids in the background, you're like, no, I went to fetch them. Now they will look after themselves while I sit in my study and work until 9, 10, because tomorrow morning is sitting with the press and it needs to talk about our quarterly business results. So 9 to 5, I'm focused on this thing. My side hustle is exactly that, but because of the level of efficiencies and experience we have in corporate, we're able to run it without even interacting with the business. You put the mechanisms in place, the controls, the right type of management, and you let it run itself.
With ease.
With ease, right? And for me, that's what's always been important. Now, from an intrapreneurship point of view, you know, Nick, I would say about 8 years ago, I would always say you'll never get rich from being an employee. You work, you'll never be rich.
You'll never, true.
Hey, Chief.
Yeah, well.
I started listening to Hilton Tarrant on SAFM at 6 o'clock. At the time, it was him on MoneyWeb. Every night. And this is what my dad taught me, by the way. He listened to SAFM in the morning on our way to school. So I've always listened from when I was in high school.
I think we need an episode with your dad.
No, I'll bring him. You need an episode. You'll hear the wisdom is there. As we are here, there everywhere. When he sits, it's like, young man. That's it. But this is, let me maybe land this point in this way. When I was listening to them and I would listen to how much money the executives have made, and remember, publicly listed companies actually do release how much. If you look at MTN last year, for example, they released the top 5 top earners.
Peter made money. Made 80 bar.
He made 80 bar.
80 bar.
I think it was something like 58 million in bonuses alone.
And then you can't get rich as an employee.
And then I'm like, guys, They said we can't get rich, we must win the lotto. But what is this? That's when I realized, no, man, actually, with hard work and focus and literally making power moves, you actually can get to a point where you can make that amount of money.
Interesting.
But you need to get through that door, and you will not get through that door by being good at one thing. You need to be a generalist, because if you look at these guys, Ralph is an accountant by trade, if I'm not mistaken. But he understands business end to end. He doesn't understand only running money, but he also understands counting money, but he also understands running a business, looking forward, strategy, all of that type of stuff. And that is what he's paid for. Excuse me.
True.
Right. So for me, I had to very quickly, align with the right type, caliber of people. Have conversations that are literally at that sophisticated level. Understand business. I may not understand how to execute, but have an idea of what depends on what for it to succeed. Right? So in other words, why do we have so many departments? I asked myself in public sector, for example, why do we have so many ministers? Because if it was in corporate, at the very most, you've got 7 executives as part of Expo.
As part of Expo, yes.
And it runs smoothly and it's extremely lucrative. You've got CFO, you've got chief HR, chief sales, you've got chief operations, you've got the CEO himself, and if you've got other chief risk, CIO, that's it, right?
Not more than 10.
Not more than 10, but you look at our government, you've got 50 ministers, unless you're cleaning money. So sometimes, and this is maybe the last point I'm going to make where corporate is concerned, you are able to make the amount of money even more than you would make as an entrepreneur. And you do not make it at your own risk.
With twice the support.
You add value, you come in, you add value, and you get paid handsomely for that.
Wow.
Right. And for me, that is what I had to learn very quickly. And with time, in the last 4 years, being in executive leadership for 3 different companies, that's when I've learned that actually it's the money conversation is almost irrelevant. You don't even talk about money anymore because the money is there, the money will come.
The money will come.
You talk about value. What can we do to grow this business over time? And it actually, it actually ends up working out just fine for all of you. So for me, that is where I'm at, and that's what's quite important. Adding value, being entrepreneurial in your spirit and how you do things, running it as if it's your own business. They'll even ask you as part of leadership, if this was your company, would you accept such mediocre results?
Yeah, that's a tough one, China. And when
if you say yes, then we might have hired the wrong person, because we want people who are very selfish when we ask them such questions. If it was your company, would you allow such? And your answer should be no. And because you are senior enough, it should be no, I will fix it, and this is how I will fix it. You need to be very decisive. You need to have your head rightly screwed on your shoulders. And I turned 34 this year. Yeah. For a young man, I think I've gone quite far.
We've gone quite far. Although 35 was Wako youth, but it's fine.
Yeah, no. I was a director. I was turning 30 when I made director, at a global company. So for me, it's
No, you've done very well for yourself.
So now what do I do to make sure that I continue adding value, that I continue on this path? Because one small mistake, you might find yourself actually regressing quite quickly.
Yes, true.
Yeah.
And as you're turning 34 this year.
Yeah, I turned in July.
You've turned in
July. You turned 34 in July.
Yeah.
So with all the experience that you've gained in your journey in the corporate space, what would you say are common or similarities in intrapreneurship and entrepreneurship? What do you find is similar?
What's similar is the drive to succeed.
Okay.
One, very results driven. So in entrepreneurship, if you don't make a sale, you do not eat that month.
Yeah, true.
Whereas in corporate, if you don't make a sale this month, you better make double the sale next month. Otherwise, you don't eat at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Eventually, you don't eat. And what I feel about corporate is, as robust and as cutthroat as it is, it cushions you from a lot of the stuff that you would go through if you were in entrepreneurship, where your salary is directly linked to the business and the turnover that you make. In corporate, you've got a person who's saying, we will sponsor your headcount, we will sponsor your overheads, everything, even your salary. But just make sure that come the end of the year or come the end of the quarter, you've met this number.
You've met this,
Right. So the similarities are there. I think it's just the time frames that are slightly different.
Okay.
Entrepreneurship from a business point of view is extremely tough. A lot of South African companies don't make it past the 5-year mark, simply because of three things. One is the lack of, I would say, revenue, or let me say, new opportunities that come in. We end up having one customer and focusing on them. And when they dump you, you are screwed. The second one is actually cash flow.
Okay.
So you're not able to scale up because you don't have the money. If you scale up, you won't have enough money to actually run the operation.
Okay.
So you have to make tough decisions of, do I stay the same size but run for 3 years, or do I scale up and not be able to pay my employees at the end of the month? The money I have now,
difficult decision to
is
make,
enough to buy me, an additional asset that will generate revenue. But if I do that, then I won't have money to pay employees. So such challenges are extremely difficult. And the last one, which is the third one, I would say, is the lack of foresight. A lot of companies, or let me say a lot of entrepreneurs, businessmen who have gone bust, is because of their unwillingness to accept defeat early enough and very quickly pivot. Learn and failing quickly is what we call it in corporate, fail fast.
Fail fast, Chief.
So
we move forward.
We are too married to our ideas. Hey, I started this company. With my last 27 rand. You know how much 27 rand was in 1976 when I was a young man?
When are you coming here?
When you come here, you tell me, no. It's no longer your company. The consumer owns it now.
It's the consumer.
Your stakeholders own it now. And they are all saying we're turning left, but because you've got this entitlement to this business, which blinds your foresight now. You're no longer being able to see far because you are so. It's like having a toxic relationship or partner where he beats you, but he tells you he loves you straight afterwards. And you are unable to move away because there's this satisfaction that comes from hearing those words.
That I love you.
You know, but at the same time, you know he's going to kill you. And everybody's jumping up and down saying, Bongani, get out, Bongani, get out. And you are saying, I built this house with my first salary, and the house is on fire.
You don't know it like I know it.
You don't know it like I know it. I've gone through similar waves before. In 2008, during the financial meltdown globally, I survived this. What is COVID? Well, COVID has different challenges.
Yes.
That was financial services coming from the US. COVID is coming from everywhere.
Every angle.
It's coming from Elokshin. It's in a taxi coming to London right now.
Yes, yes.
And it's coming from the suburbs being exported back into the townships when people go back home. The big boss was drinking from a glass. The cleaner is from Elokshin. The people are just sitting Elokshin thinking it's not going to come to us. It's coming. So those challenges have their own dynamics and their own merits. And you need to solve for them as and when you see them. And you need to be very sober-minded when you do that.
I think you're raising something so important. How adaptable you are as an entrepreneur, as a business, following the flow of change that happens either in consumer buying patterns or in so many other things that we track as entrepreneurs. But there are businesses which look the other way when employees want to be innovative, employees want to come out, and be creative, and not for the employees themselves, but you find that innovation would in turn help the organization in the long run. What do you think is the greatest loss that such businesses take from not embracing the concept of intrapreneurship in their, within the business?
You know what? I had a conversation at GovTech last week with one of a former colleague of mine.
Okay.
And she left the company that we both worked for to go join another company that I've always admired from far. I'll not mention them by name, but I've always admired them.
Okay.
And she struggled. She left within 7 months. And I asked her why. She's like, when you sell, they tell you how to sell. And by tell you, we don't mean but it's not a suggestion, Nick, hey, listen, when you this is how you present. No, it is send an email. When they don't respond to your second email, the third email should be a divorce email. We've tried reaching you. We were not successful. Thank you very much. Even though you know this person personally, you send them an email, you invite them if they don't come, or if they do come, when they get there, you do not address them as Mongani, even though you've got a relationship for 20 years. You address them as Mr. Mzobe, right? And now Mr. Mzobe is sitting there thinking, how? But Dobby, I thought we were
pals, right? Man. You can't say,
You come from the same street, Mchala.
Exactly. But if you look at how other successful companies sell, they leverage relationships. They ask you, are you on a first name basis with the Minister of Home Affairs? And you say yes, and they're like, can we invite him to a golf day?
Because it means something.
It means something.
It's not something you can overlook. Yes.
We trust you, and he trusts you.
Yes.
You are the common denominator. So if we can all gather around you as the one person that brings everyone together, we'll definitely succeed.
Definitely.
Right? So, and people like that who are at the center, the common denominators, as I've referred to them as, a lot of them actually have the entrepreneurial sort of outlook. So intra, in a sense that they get the company saying, we trust you, you've got a network, we will support you.
Yes.
The company is saying, we will support you. You're an entrepreneur. I'll give you an example with the likes of Deloitte, the likes of EY. I think even PwC in South Africa. They've got a partner network. So they've got partners, they've got managing partners.
Managing partners, yes.
Right? Even law firms have named partners. And what that means is the division that you are a managing partner for is pretty much your company.
your
you buy
business,
into it, as in you raise capital, and you go to Deloitte and you say, this is myself as Bongani, I've been in the industry for 40 years, this is all I've known, this is what I've done my entire life, and I want to buy into a partnership with
Interesting.
Then they let you do that.
Wow.
Or I want to buy into a partnership with PwC, or Weberwens, or whoever, Bowman. And you do that. And you bring with you, I mean, you guys have watched Suits, right?
Yeah, Suits, yes.
Remember Wahhabi Spector, Jason Pearson, Jessica Pearson. You know, they were named partners, and they had their own set of customers. When they leave, they can live with them.
They're billables, yes.
They are billables, right? So you are in a franchise sort of model where the name is the brand, and you have franchised it as a franchisor, for lack of a better word, and you are running it as if it's your own pick and pay. You've got your own customers. You adhere to the set of rules, but you've got your own customer base, etc., etc. So that is important in terms of having that entrepreneurial sort of spirit, where they allow you, the company allows you to be able to do and run your division the way you would run your own business. And for me, that is important. So that company that doesn't allow you to sell the way you sell, that says the brand is more superior than you and your network and your relationships, should get out of sales. They don't understand what sales is. People buy from people they know. We've heard this
people
all the
buy
time.
from people.
And all cliches are cliches because they are true. It's very few cliches that are actually fictional. You know, when you reach the level of a cliche, it's because there's been a certain of repeatedness and pattern coming from a similar sort of circumstance. Right. So for me, what I've seen work personally in the past 15 years that I've been in the sector, I've seen a lot of guys sell from the same or buy from the same person wherever they are. Where you move to MTN, I still buy my
follow you there.
You move to Liquid Telecom, you call me like, hey Chief Ahmed, we buy from you there.
Buy from you there.
You move to Telkom, oh, what do you sell that I don't have? Okay, I'll buy from you.
You already know what I
person.
don't have. It's
Exactly. So already Unik knows his circle and the value of his network. He can tell you that I've got 12 CIOs that buy from me and they each control a budget of an average, let's say 10 billion rands. That's 120 million rand worth of a network that he has. So when he moves with companies, even if they give him a 100 million rands number, he's got 120 million rand worth of a pipeline that he can tap it into at any given time. So the question now is, corporates, do you want to let Ubongani run his own shop in adherence to your rules and compliance? Or do you want to force feed him something he is allergic to?
And how difficult is it to initiate it? Being an employee within a company, how difficult do you find it's difficult to initiate?
It's not. So remember I spoke about my leadership style, allowing myself to be led. You know, I even go as far as saying, when you have a meeting with your customer, to some of my employees, some of my senior managers that report into me, you know, when you have a meeting with your customer, invite me.
Okay.
When I go there as the exec, it's not to get there and say, I'm the exec.
Yeah, I'm the exec,
No. It's to get there and say, everything you've discussed with Bongani, he actually briefed me.
Yes.
And I'm in full support. It's his business. And I'm just supporting him.
Yes.
That elevates Bongani's stance with his customers.
Sure.
Because it immediately gives you credibility to say, everything we've discussed, I am now authorized and empowered to deliver on it. Whereas when I come there and say, no, but you guys discussed this without telling me, I am pretty much taking away the credibility from every single word you say to this customer. I'm ripping the power away from you.
Sure.
And because I'm a busy man, I will not have the time to call this customer and say, let's go out for lunch, as you would have. So now the customer will feel neglected and he will go to my competitor.
The sale is gone.
So I should have just let the customer stay with you in your capable hands, because you've got the bandwidth, the time, and you've got the relationship to leverage.
Is there any way of overdoing it in a business?
Yeah. There's a lot of people who over-innovated and they died.
Okay.
Remember the importance and the maturity that comes with shelving ideas.
Yeah.
The timing.
The timing, yeah.
The timing. Like,
just
take everything to the market. You are flooding the market to a point where there's oversupply. your margins become constrained, and eventually nobody even buys it because there's even counterfeits now start coming
so many,
into play because you have literally given away your formula.
The blueprint is out there.
Yeah.
You need to be incremental, and you need to understand with society, when I present a solution to society, how does it change the dynamics? Does it take away the problem, the challenge altogether, or does the challenge morph into something else?
Yeah, because it comes back to the intimacy issue earlier to say having the releasing a version of maybe a WhatsApp and having pending 12 versions that you're going to put onto it, but actually in the background you're getting the market ready for a new product.
Exactly.
You see, that on its own, it makes a lot of sense, because I mean, we do have version 12, but we're going to start with version 1, 2, 3, so that to keep you enticed and locked in here, so that we lead you towards, because I mean, at the end of the day, social media platforms, apps and so forth, those gaming apps and whatever, from my observation, they were preparing us to actually be ready and have trust in these gadgets to move our actual important stuff such as banking onto it. Right? Because now you already trust your Candy Crush, you already trust your WhatsApp, you already trust your Mixit. So
when the bank comes to your phone,
okay.
And you know what I always say, Bongani? People are like, yeah, but cloud computing is scary. And my guys, do you have WhatsApp?
That's cloud.
That's cloud. Do you have Gmail? Gmail is not on-prem. Gmail is on the cloud.
It's on the cloud.
Right? Do you have, if you're a small business and you've got an invoicing system, that is software as a service on the cloud.
That's cloud.
That is cloud.
Period.
Do you have a GPS? That is cloud. So when you trust it to take you from point A to point B, why can't you trust it to host your infrastructure and host your website and your transactions and all of that, your data? Why can't you?
Cut 30% of your expenses.
Being paranoia sometimes, honestly, is at our own detriment.
Yeah.
You become overly paranoid to the point where now, our certain you know, even the inventions and things that are meant to actually, you know, help you grow quicker and enter new markets. Because remember, if you're on the cloud, it means you can sell your solution to someone sitting in Kenya without scaling, without going there and physically being there. You can sell it from here. Do you understand how much time, money, and you've spent? I mean, you've saved. You've saved quite a lot. So for me, on that Kenya or that last point, South Africa as a market is 59 million or 60 million, depending on which Twitter you read. Right? 10% of it is 6 million. You better make a very big margin from that 6 million. If you're looking at just targeting 6 million or just 10% market share. Otherwise, it means you must grow your market share to over 50% if you want to have any meaningful, massive business that turns over, that actually makes a profit over $1 billion. Right? Otherwise, you need to look at the rest of Africa as a potential market for you. 1.2 to 1.4 billion people. 1.4 billion people. The reason why countries like China, a lot of entrepreneurs there do very well is because he just wants 1% of 1.4 billion people. 1% of
1%, just 1%.
Just 1%. 40 million people is already almost a third of our population. Or let me say a quarter of our population. Right. And it's 1% for him. If we don't look at Africa as an entire market for our South African businesses, unfortunately, we will never reach scale that can allow us to go global. Because once you hit the 100 million customer mark, you are big enough to be able to go anywhere in the world and actually launch your product and succeed.
That's true.
Which means, even if you were to sell to the whole of South Africa, you'd still be far too small for you, especially if you're an innovation and technology or digital-based solution or product company. You would still not be big enough for you to make it in Silicon Valley or anywhere else in the world. And those are some of the things that we need to think about. We need to see the rest of Africa instead of seeing them as uncivilized, backward. You know, and I'm talking about South Africans. We also have that superiority complex.
Yeah.
But like, Africa, as if you're not a I've spent time in Ethiopia, my friend. And I've spent time all over Africa. And I can tell you now, if you were to ask me where I want to move to, if I was to leave South Africa and relocate. My wife knows. Right, either moving to Ethiopia, maybe Mauritius or Ghana.
Okay. But not outside of Africa.
Not outside of Africa. I'm not moving to anywhere else. I'd rather move to Ethiopia.
Okay.
Because you look at the Ethiopian, the second most populated country in Africa, where you've got a vast, more than 60% of the country's youth, Chief. So think about it. When you go to Addis Ababa, you're walking in the street, you've never seen so many people in your life, and they're all young. And one young thing have one thing in common. They've got this untamed, burning desire to succeed and make something of themselves. And all you need to do is offer them a value proposition that can help them succeed and make something of their lives.
It makes a world of a difference what you're mentioning, man. You know, but yeah, we know you are a busy man.
You know, talk forever.
But then again, you know, as long as we are keeping you on schedule, it's fine, Chief. You know, yeah. But look, man, you have so much wealth of knowledge, right? And one thing that I appreciate is the fact that you're also stressing out there that people should invest in finding out how can they get to where they want to be, and by means of either increasing your social capital, knowing the people that you can align with. Do you understand? It makes a world of a difference to have that. Now, from your space, personal space, do you have people that you mentor, or what is it that you are doing in your own spare time to say I'm giving back?
I actually love connecting. So I'm a he for she.
Okay.
So I support women. Yeah, black young women, smart, marginalized. You know. And often when a powerful man offers to help them, the guy wants something in return.
Yeah, true.
And I'm saying no strings attached, nothing. You know, my wife actually put up something on LinkedIn last week. She said she made a call and arranged a meeting for those two cyclists that are exactly in the same circumstances, but they live on opposite sides of the world. And she happens to know them. And they're both living with diabetes and all of that. And all she did was make a call and say, hey, I've got someone who I'd like to introduce you who's just like you. Introduced them, and they made magic. And that helped her. She feels extremely fulfilled. She doesn't want a mention, shout out, nothing. For me, that is also the type of stuff that I like. I like helping with I don't want anything, you know. I just wanna. The thing is, I know Bongani. Bongani is running, you know, this show, you know, Kula Biz, and I know some kid, Everton, who has a camera, who wants to spend time with Sepang and actually learn what production looks like, and he doesn't have the opportunity to come on set, and all I have to do is say, Bongani, this kid was a Everton. Can we bring him in the next shoot that you have so he can spend time with you? It takes nothing away from you.
True.
But it makes a world of a difference to that young man.
Yes.
Because he has been here, he has seen how you set up mics, how you set up the cameras, how you test, how you do your intro, your skits, and all of those things. And for me, that is all you do. So I'm a he for she. I do run mentorships every now and then, but I prefer, you know, mentoring young South African girls and actually getting them opportunities and connecting them with like-minded women.
Yeah.
So I'll be able to say, hey girl, meet this lady who was exactly where you were 10 years ago. They make magic, and I move on to the next person.
From there. No. It makes a world of a difference, Chief. Mina ngiyawazi nkalakata. Uyishanga nehlakaniphi.
This guy needs to go, but I just want to say this to you. I thank you today because, you know, you've pushed back a myth for me today.
Yeah.
That, you know, people cannot get rich.
Yeah.
Or will never get rich
from employment.
My man. You know,
look at the CEO of Spania Gold. Just last Friday,
120
million. Just paid 1 year.
I guess what's necessary to understand is you just need to realize that there is a level that you need to get to.
Yes.
and decide on the formula that's going to get you at that level. Do you have any plans for the future that you want to share with us? What's next for Doby?
Doby now is classmates with this man at business school.
Doing metric.
Okay.
We're doing our postgrads, and we're gonna ultimately do our.
That's
MBA.
where the evangelism come from.
Yeah, come from there, you know, and that's a deliberate move. I got to where I am with just a degree in undergrad.
Okay.
And like I said, I'm gonna make one more move for 2-3 years, and then look into becoming a chief. But I would need that MBA.
Yes.
Not that I don't possess what the MBA is. Remember, an MBA is just a test that certifies you that you've got a brain. Like, no, we've tested him, and we can now certify that, okay, he's got a brain. You've got it.
Yeah.
You've got it. It's within you. And it's a matter of how do you apply it. And that myth, I'm glad I've debunked it, because I know more sales guys who earn more than CEOs and CFOs. And being in sales, you don't even need a degree.
You don't need it.
I know a few people who have degrees and they're in sales.
Yeah.
A lot of them don't even have a university
degree.
degree.
They don't.
They know the product. They understand the value proposition and the challenge it solves.
Yes.
And they understand how to sell it.
Yes.
I know, when I say I know people, I'm not talking he says or she says. Personal people who have made a payday of 10 million rand in a year from bonuses linked or commission linked to their sales. 10 million rands over and above a salary.
Yeah.
The guy out earned the CFO. And the CFO and the CEO actually signed. There's one time guys made so much money, instead of the company celebrating, they were like, we must institute new rules here.
Yes.
You guys can't make 100 million.
Let's do clawbacks or something.
Clawbacks, limits, caps, 400% only of your salary. You can't earn more than that. All of those, because honestly, that's how much. So sales guys make a lot of money. And if you think you're not a salesperson, the next time you ask a woman out, it will confirm if you're a salesperson
or not. Yeah. I know that a lot of young people take interest in this podcast.
Yeah.
And I did mention earlier that some of them could be students still studying, looking to go into their, start their careers in different fields. Yeah. Do you have any words of wisdom that you'd want to share with them today? Yeah.
Words of wisdom is, what the country offers you is not the end goal. They offer you a start. You need to add value to what they give you. If you look at Bollywood and Nollywood and Hollywood, the guys were given cameras. In fact, if you look at Nollywood, Nigeria themselves, right now, they are almost as big as Bollywood. Bollywood is almost as big as Hollywood when it comes to the box office and how much money they make. If you think 10, 15 years ago when Nollywood started, the camera quality is worse than your phone. The guy is talking nice and suddenly the sound goes up and then it goes down. It was an absolute mess. But it created an industry that is thriving today.
Yes.
And all the guys were given was cameras. So companies are giving you access to Wi-Fi. They're giving you internet 5G. You've got your cell phones, you've got your smartphones. Use them to do whatever you want. And obviously that's within the digital space.
Yeah.
You could look at the same anywhere else. You get 5,000 rands, whatever. What you do with it is up to you. So my words is, you need to be very deliberate how you use the opportunities given to you. If there are no opportunities coming your way, create your own. I know it sounds cliche, but create your own. And by creating your own, sometimes, let me give you an example. Sometimes we struggle to raise money in entrepreneurship as a small business.
True.
We end up raising it in our personal. It's easier to get a personal loan than a business loan.
That's true. That's true.
So go get a personal loan and use it for your business. Yes, the rates might be high, but if you do your maths and it works, then you're even better, because it means your business has unencumbered. It's got no debt.
It's got no debt.
You do. It doesn't. So we're not smart enough to understand how to play the system. So take enough time to understand how to play the system. When you get given an opportunity, do something with it. Build onto it. Extract the value.
Important.
It makes a world of a difference.
Nick, let's close, my
guys,
brother.
Thank you so much again, guys, for making time to be with us today. We have Mr. Doby. He's on his way to another business deal. Hopefully we can shadow him somehow. But man, thank you so much for making time. We really do appreciate you having to be here.
Thank you so much.
We learned a lot. I mean, me and you, we're always joking around, and I think we are very much like-minded people. But to have you in the space where you can actually impact on other people, use the medium right now that we have, so that others can access it. And I mean, we're getting quite a lot of traction all over the country and in parts of Africa.
Yeah.
So I mean, that little bit of motivation for someone in Kenya, Uganda, DRC, wherever, it means something to them as well. Does. But guys, you are able to. Can people follow you on Twitter?
Yeah, they can follow me on Twitter. It's called Dolby Digital.
Dolby Digital.
Yeah, Dolby Digital.
Oh, okay.
Or you can find me on LinkedIn. It's Doby, D-O-B-Y, and an L at the end, Malubane.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
On LinkedIn.
The chief himself. All right, the chief himself. Yeah, but yeah, guys, please do subscribe, comment, and like and share. And also follow us on our social media platforms. Same handle, @CoolerBiz. Bongs, you want to say goodbye to the people?
Goodbye, guys. Thank you for watching. It's been an absolute pleasure.
None. Can we order champagne now? Thanks,
guys.